Hello and welcome to your weekly swim through the ocean of electric cars, brought to you by the team at electrifying.com. On the podcast this week, we'll be talking about Skoda's rebooted Iron Curtain Classic, the old Nissan's keeping an Italian airport running, and why points mean prizes at Tesco charge points. We'll also be answering your electric car questions and dipping into the postbag to find out your views on last week's episode. Welcome to the Kilowatt Half Hour. I'm Mike.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Badge.
I'm going to start today by saying a thank you to YouTube commenter Neil Williams. He wrote our opening line this week. And in case you missed it in last week's episode, I basically ran out of ideas for that cheesy first line that we always kind of trot out at the start of the podcast. So I did ask our wonderful listeners and readers and viewers to supply some alternatives. Absolutely inundated. About a third of our comments on the YouTube video were people adding, throwing in new suggestions for them. We're going to work through them, but I would love to hear some more because that was an absolute cracker, Neil. So thank you very much for that. Very pleased with it. So, right, okay. We're going to start off today with asking, what have you been driving? Vicky?
So, I have been driving the Omoda 9 plug-in hybrid, which I have to say is very interesting. Now, again, Omoda is part of the Chery sort of Chinese manufacturing giant. This is part of their portfolio. So Omoda and JQ, new brands. They've been out a couple of years in sort of Europe and the rest of the world. They're brands that Chery's put together specifically for global sales. Interesting stuff. Cars so far have been all right, but a little bit underwhelming in a lot of important areas. The 9, I think, is the best thing they've done so far because the powertrain is actually really interesting. It's a plug-in hybrid with an electric range of 93 miles. I know. Check that out.
Proper WLTP range, not a Chinese range, made-up range.
93 miles from a 34 kilowatt hour LFP battery. So it's really interesting. And it's pretty good to drive as well. And I was actually getting, well over 80 miles, real world indicated. I didn't have enough of a test drive to actually see if it did that in, all the way through. But it's interesting stuff. So yeah, really long range. And it's a very clever system as well. So it sort of retains enough electric power to function like a self-charging hybrid if you get past the pure EV range and all of this stuff. It's interesting stuff. And I thought it was pretty good to drive, really good value compared to premium stuff, but similar price to, other similarly sized PHEVs like Skoda Kodiaq and this kind of thing. So Omoda are betting on people appreciating the luxury quality of it. So that's my, it's a bit, would you have a Kodiaq or a 5008 or a Hyundai Tucson, or would you have the Omoda 9 with the longer range? Similar pricing. So there you go. But it's a really interesting thing. So I enjoyed driving that and it's spent a lot of time thinking about it. And you can see the review right there on electrifying.com. There you go.
Excellent. The interior also, sorry, I was just going to say the interior also is quite, from what I remember, because I saw it about a year ago, and that was like a pre-prod, and the interior quality seemed to be really good. I was quite surprised.
Yeah.
I mean,
is that
true?
Bad. It's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, genuinely it is. So, leather upholstery, and even so it's got, proper switches for the drive modes and for the aircon temperature and that kind of thing. So I think they've got quite a lot right. Touchscreen graphics are good. It's all quite smart. It's a single piece curved screen on the dash. It's not bad at all. There are aspects of the interior quality that I think, you wouldn't find in a Mercedes or an Audi or a BMW, a few scratchy plastics and some shiny bits and a steering wheel with haptic touch controls and gloss black finish that reflects the light. So you can't really see what button you're pressing and this kind of thing. So there's a few little details. It's very Mercedes-ish. I think Omoda have quite like Mercedes. It's quite sort of, you do sort of sit in it and you go, I wonder if Mercedes lawyers have seen this. But, well, no, I don't think they'd get anywhere with that, but there's definitely what's the phrase? Plagiarism is the best form of flattery or something. Do you know what I mean? Something along those lines.
I don't think it's that, but yeah.
No. Do you know, I can't remember what the phrasing is.
I think imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, if that's the one you're grasping. I mean, what's it like to drive though, Vicky? Because Barnard drove the E5 and he said it was one of the worst cars he's ever driven. So it was.
Yes, this is a different platform. So different platform, and it's actually not bad. I don't think the ride is brilliant. And it's just fine. It's not sporty or, but it's really comfort. No, the ride's not great, but the refinement's good and the powertrain's good and all of that. So it's really not. I didn't like the JQs. I thought the JQs were pretty poor, I have to say. I didn't love them. But I think the Omoda 9's the best thing that has come out of JQ or Omoda for a while, actually. Well,
Okay.
since ever, in fact. So to the UK. I think it might sort of start to sway people towards the brand, because that electric range, the interior is pretty decent, the equipment you get is pretty amazing for the money. So it's 45 grand for everything: head-up display, adaptive dampers, pano roof, leather, everything you could possibly want, LED lights, all of that stuff, fancy ambient lighting that does that annoying breathing thing if you want it to, and all of that. So it goes full fancy spec. Including all the stuff that you probably don't want, and you get all of it as standard. So yeah, I like it in its own way. I think it's still a bit of a hard one to justify over more established things like that. I think Skoda and Hyundai and Kia are bigger problems for a Moda than the premium stuff they'll tell you in a press conference is their rivals. But I don't think anybody's going to buy an Moda instead of the Range Rover Velar that they've always dreamed of. Do you know what I mean? But it is genuinely interesting tech, and I think it shows just how quickly the brand's moving. So yeah, it's good.
Okay, good stuff. Batch, what have you been up to?
Well, I've been driving the Nissan Nismo this week.
Oh, okay.
Intriguing car. Do I stop short of saying disappointing? No, let's not stop short of saying that. Let's go for it. It's disappointing. I don't know. So to give a bit of context, Nismo is Nissan's tuning division, and they've been responsible for creating some wonderful performance cars and, of course, racing cars. Nismo racing team. And I'm not sure that this has successfully translated to the Aria, really. It looks great. Lots of red trim, big wheels, lots of Nismo badges everywhere, which you do find yourself explaining what Nismo is to everybody, because you've got it brandished all over the car everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then the interior is a bit of an odd thing, because, of course, it's all red and black, and in that typical sort of performance car way, but it's completely at odds with the rest of the interior design, which, as we know, with the Aria, it's very Japanese lounge zen kind of light lanterns and things, all that kind of Japanese stuff. So it's a bit of a jar, and it doesn't drive fantastically well either. So I don't know. I'm sorry, Nissan. I'm not convinced with your 430 brake horsepower, £56,000 Nismo Aria. So that's the short little review. Of course, read the full review out on the Electrifying very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fair enough. I've done nothing this week. I mean, I've done lots of things, but I haven't really driven much this week. I cleaned the i3 at the weekend, and I go through the same process every night, because I don't use it much, because I either use the Buzz or recently the Tavascan, which is long term that's been with me. So the i3, I'm kind of moving around. I move it around more than I drive it, if you know what I mean, because it's always kind of in the way or doesn't need charging or something like that. So, and I go through the same thought process, thinking it's costing me a lot of money to keep this car, and do I use it? But then I get in it and move it, and I think, oh, this is lovely. And I mention it to people, and they say, oh, you can never sell your i3. Oh, it's a lovely car, it's a brilliant car. So I don't know. I'm on that kind of, I'm just watching it lose value over the years, and not really driving it that much. So I'm kind of, and I put asking our listeners, because they'll say keep it, won't they? Because they probably enjoy the misery of me paying 500 quid a year for insurance and everything. So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, have you ever been in the same situation where you think you've got something you really like, you love it, you'd probably buy one again, but it's just not being used?
Yes. I mean, that's my entire life.
Have you been through the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know. But you will.
Probably everybody who loves cars and buys cars,
It's a classic thing to say, though. Oh, you'll regret selling it, and you probably will. So just hang on to it. It's easy for us to say that, but just hang on to it.
Yeah, fine. It's not you paying the bills, is it? So
I was going to say, if you're not using it though, it's kind of a bit of a shame for it also to sort of sit there and just.
This is it. Get someone else have a chance to enjoy it. Yeah,
it is tricky. I've not been in a situation where I've had a car like the i3, which would be like, is a great daily driver. I've always had stupid cars that is quite, that just don't make any sense to anybody anyway, that I've kind of not wanted to get rid of, but aren't using and all of that. So I've never been in quite the same situation. I've got a supercharged Jaguar if anybody would like one. So which sits and does nothing.
Honestly.
Electric podcasts always being the place that you want to mention that, isn't it?
Honestly, Fev's in a supercharged Jaguar. People are going to wonder if they're on the right podcast. Okay.
I need to go and lie down.
Yeah, no.
I need to go and lie down. The word supercharged Jaguar do funny things to me. They really do.
I know.
But,
I would quite well. I mean, the problem is it's not actually my Jaguar. It's my husband's Jaguar. So that's more of a marital dispute than anything. But if I could sell it, I would tomorrow and buy your i3 with it, because I would absolutely love an i3. I really want a used i3. I would have an i3 over the supercharged Jag any day.
It feels like the deal's falling into place nicely.
It does.
We should take this offline. Yeah.
In fact, Batch, do you want a supercharged XJ, don't you? So here,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
Hold out your hand, Vicky.
You buy the Jag.
Hold out your hand, Vicky.
On the deal.
Yes.
Amazing.
The first deal we've done on the podcast. That's brilliant.
Can I just bring it back to electric cars for a second? Because you were talking about the Nissan, the Nismo. I can't think of a less necessary car than a Nismo version of the Aria, which, let's face it, is a car that isn't really selling brilliantly anyway, is it? And I like the Aria. I really like the interior and stuff. I've always thought it was a bit underwhelming to drive for what I expected from Nissan, given their sort of high benchmark that they've set for their EVs. I always thought the ride wasn't great and the boot wasn't big enough, and there are aspects of it that I thought were quite disappointing, but I can see why you would. But the Nismo, I mean, it's a really unnecessary version of a car that already sort of struggles to justify itself in the marketplace anyway, isn't it? It's just a funny option for them to do, I think.
It's just that interior.
I wonder what the board was like where they decided to do it.
I know. It's just that interior. It's like, I know I've already said it, but I think the seats are exactly the same seats that they put in the standard one. So you don't even get like special bucket racing seats. And they've kept, this is the thing that makes me laugh the most, they've kept the shag pile carpet in it as well. So you've got all this red and black and carbon fibre, and you've got shag pile carpet as well. I mean, what were they thinking? I don't know.
Oh, brilliant.
No, I think I'm getting a negative vibe so far in this podcast. So I think we need to.
We were talking about
the positivity here.
Yeah, we were talking about the Brabus Smart 5, which isn't the way to go if you want positivity. We were talking about the Brabus version of the Smart 5, weren't we? Which sort of falls into a similar. I don't really understand why Smart makes such a big deal of the Brabus stuff as well. I just think for what they're selling these days, it just makes zero. For a Smart Roadster back in the day, but I don't know. For
pointless
now.
Why?
Why would you do that? It's madness. Yeah,
I know.
Right.
Anyway,
I'm gonna drag this podcast more positively now. So I'm going to talk about some of the brilliant news we've had this week. So we'll start with the first story. Batch.
Skoda have brought back a car which it was quite an important car in their back catalogue, and that was the Favorit. Now, this was a car that was built between 1987 and 1994, and for the geeks among you, this was the last Skoda that was built before VW took ownership of the company. So it's quite an important car. So Skoda have decided to bring it back, and they've got their designer who sat down, and this isn't some kind of resto mod where they've just taken an old car and put an EV motor in it, like Nissan did with that Bluebird all those years ago or something like that. They've actually sat down and they've created a brand new Favorit. And it looks pretty good. It's got a similar kind of shape. The lights look a bit similar, but it does incorporate a lot of the modern design cues, which we've seen on the L-Rock and the updated Enyaq. The bad news is you're not going to be able to buy it. It's just a flight of fancy from Skoda, which is a shame. Surprisingly, though, I just think it's weird how Skoda's done this, because Skoda's not really a very backward-looking company, really, is it? They're always kind of forward-looking and creating the next thing. So it's a bit of an odd thing, this. So what do you think, Mike?
It is. I mean, it's part of they've done a big series of rebooted cars. They've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years. And they did a motorcycle recently, which kind of referenced the first L&K motorcycle, which started the brand off effectively. It's interesting, isn't it? Because everyone else has made a nice bit of money out of revisiting their back catalogue. You kind of Skoda, they're very proud of their back catalogue, but I don't think, as you say, that they're the sort of brand who wants to kind of put out a new Favorit or an Estelle. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it? Because they've already got the rear drive platform, MEB. It's already there. I mean, I just think that would be lovely. Maybe that'd be the next one they do. But I like the fact that SCOD do this and put this out because they're not too embarrassed about the stuff that they put out in the sort of 70s and 80s, because they mobilized the nation basically, and they came across here, with really, really cheap prices. And a lot of people were able to afford a new car because they bought a Skoda or a Lada or a Yugo, that kind of thing. So it did kind of get people into car ownership, didn't it? A new car ownership. So, I like it. I mean, I like it when they redo these things every now and again. So, it's a nice little project.
It looks absolutely brilliant. I think they must immediately, and I find it very frustrating that they've kind of revealed it and then said they're not going to make it. But I mean, I hope that that's a very kind of manufacturing kind of, we're going to show you this amazing thing, and obviously we're not going to make it, not at all. And then if they get loads of people saying, well, I'd buy one, then maybe they will. Because I mean, this would be basically, it's going to be Renault 5 territory if they made it. Shortly, that's what it's going to be like. Which would be awesome. This is Skoda's Renault 5, isn't it? If they made it, which I mean, why wouldn't you? By the way, and also given how long it's taking Volkswagen to actually make the ID2, then I suspect Skoda could probably make this and get it on sale before Volkswagen will give us the ID2. So I think they should do it.
I would upset them even more. That's not good. That's not good. Vicky, what's caught your eye this week in the news?
So I was reading about old Nissan Leaf batteries, because there is Nissan has now done, so they've done this before actually. So they've repurposed a load of batteries from scrapped electric Leafs to create reading from the news story, a cutting-edge battery energy storage system for Rome's Fiumicino airport. Forgive my pronunciation there. Anyway, so basically, Nissan is providing backup electricity for the airport in Rome with used Leaf batteries. So I think that's really quite cool. So 84 second life Leaf batteries, and it's providing energy storage to the 2.1 megawatt hours apparently. So it'll be a sort of backup generator effectively. And they did this before, all the way back in... I was reading about this too. So they were the first ones to kind of pioneer this. You have to forgive me, I'm terrible at dates. 2018, there you go. And it was at, in Amsterdam, big arena in Amsterdam. And they supplied 148 Leaf batteries to back up power for the arena there.
So that would have been really handy at Heathrow, wasn't it? A couple of months ago when they had that fire and knocked everything out.
Oh, no.
I mean, just having, wouldn't that have been handy?
I mean, I think it's just nice to read about this stuff, isn't it? Because it's, it's nice to see the batteries we talk about second life batteries a lot. Yeah. We've all done the news stories about it, and we've all spoken to the manufacturers about it, and we know it's a big part of the life cycle of an EV battery. But the truth is that actually EV batteries are lasting so long that there aren't that many going into second life purposes yet. So it's been for a long time this whole kind of, it can be used for X, Y, and Z. It's going to be stationary energy storage for homes, or it's going to be used in marine stuff. It's going to be all this kind of stuff, and it's all brilliant. And then inevitably the problem is that it's not really filtering through yet. So when you start to see kind of installations this big, you think that actually it's kind of quite promising that in the future we'll see all the when used EV batteries do start to become a bit more available, as they will, it's nice to see that they're going to go to good use. Excellent. So well done, Nissan.
Good stuff. Well, and I've got good news. If you two probably do your shopping in Waitrose, don't you? And Fortnum and Mason, that kind of thing. But for the hoi polloi like me, there's good news this week, because Tesco's offering club card points for charging for the first time, which you kind of think would be a logical thing to do, given that Tesco were one of the first people to have charging points in their car parks, and a lot of other places do as well now. But they've done a deal with Pod, which used to be called Pod Point. You were aware that they changed? They dropped the point, so they're now just Pod.
No, this is news. This is news to me.
Well, there's two news stories in one. Pod Point and now Pod Batch. So deal with it.
Pod Batch. Okay.
Yeah. So you get a point for every pound that you spend at a charger. So it depends how long you're there. 44p per kilowatt hour on a slow charger and 69p for a rapid charger. They're not the cheapest prices, obviously, and in theory you're only going to be there for an hour or so maximum, aren't you, when you're charging? But every little helps, as they say, in terms of going onto your club card.
Is that a good deal? A point a pound? I'm not up on Tesco Club Card points. I mean, do you get a lot with a point? I don't know. Does anyone know?
I don't
No?
know. I don't.
No, let's move
idea.
on.
I have no idea.
No idea.
I like the idea of it, how it works in principle. I don't know. Perhaps if any of our listeners are Tesco customers, and I don't have a Tesco near me. This is where I'm not being snobby. I just don't have a Tesco near me, so that's why I don't shop there. But if you do, and does that sound like a good deal, or is it a waste of time? So yeah, interesting to know what you think.
I found out the other day, just as a quick aside to this, that how often have I charged up at BP Pulse stuff at petrol stations and got a coffee there? Do you know you get 50% off wild bean coffee if you're charging at a BP Pulse station on the garage forecourt? You know, when you go to and you get the wild bean cafe. Yeah, I know, and that's been the case for years. Well, it's there. You could just look it up, and I don't know.
And you have to point and say, "That's my car charging out there."
Flip the key fob so that you show them that you've got the keys for the car. I don't know, but so there you go. That's a deal I didn't know about. I could have saved myself hundreds of pounds probably if I'd known about that. So there you go.
There you go.
But that's under the sorry. I just that's under the assumption that the BP Pulse actually works at the BP station.
I know. I know.
Isn't it? So. Yeah,
negativity. Too much negativity. This podcast is brought to you by our supporters, Anderson. This episode of the Kilowatt Half Hour is brought to you by the help of Anderson EV. If you're into design as much as you are electric cars, you'll love their home chargers.
Anderson's A2 and A3 aren't just functional, they are beautifully made with a choice of 200, no less, colours and finishes, so they can blend in with your home or even be made to match your car.
No bulky boxes, just smart tech that looks great and works. You can find them at anderson-ev.com.
Okay. No Barnard this week, as you may have noticed. But we have Batch's bargain of the week this week, keeping the alliteration going, which seemed a more sensible thing to do. So, Batch, what do you got?
It's almost like this is scripted, isn't it? So I've got two electric hatchbacks for you this week. Firstly, we've got the BYD Dolphin, and this is in the 60 kilowatt hour, which is the larger battery, in comfort trim. So it's a brand new car, 36-month deal, 8,000 miles a year, and it's going to cost you £261 per month after you've put down £2,354 as the initial rental. Now that seems to be pretty tempting, doesn't it? I think the BYD Dolphin. I mean, I don't know about you two, but I don't see many of those on the roads. Perhaps in my particular neck of the woods, it's not a common sight. But I think with that deal, you may be seeing a few more of them because that seems to be pretty good. So we've got that, and then how about used? So Tom and I have both been looking at the kinds of cars that are slipping into the sub £10,000 bracket, and it's quite surprising the number of really desirable cars that are now sort of falling into this area now. The ID.3, you can now get this for under £10,000. 2021 car, 58 kilowatt hours, 71,000 miles on the clock, and it's in blue, which is quite a desirable colour, and it's all yours for £9,995. So you can see that leasing deal on the electrifying.com website under the leasing page, and you can see that ID.3 listing on the electrifying.com used car listing. So yes, conscious that I'm starting to sound like a used car dealer, I shall throw it back to you, Mike.
No, it's not. I mean, I feel like I'm the only person in the world who kind of like the ID.3. Everyone else seemed to be like, it's just the whipping boy for everything. But I mean, there are some good deals. You got to be careful though, because do you remember they made like a batch of 45 kilowatt hour ones, which were like 160 mile range. I think it was at the point where that thing when everything had a 2-year waiting list, and I think it was perhaps the only batteries they could get their hands on at the time, Volkswagen. So they kind of pumped the others. So you do occasionally, when I was looking at these, looking them up, I did find a few. I thought, oh, that's good. That's quite low mileage. And then you look at it, it's the 45 kilowatt hour battery. But don't know, it might work for some. It probably work for a lot of people. I don't know. But it just feels like that car needs nearly 200 miles of range, doesn't it, really, to kind of be a usable kind of family hatchback. Anyway, we digress.
It sounds like a great use buy, though.
Yeah, under 10 grand. That's 71,000 miles. That's you still got a lot of battery warranty left on that one. So yeah, I think that's, it's encouraging that stuff's getting that cheap. So, again, inundated with questions via podcast@electrifying.com and on the comments on YouTube. So thank you. Please keep them coming. They're always fascinating to work out what kind of quandaries you'll be having with electric cars. We've got a few. We'll do as many as we can today within the time frame. I know we waffled on last week up to 50 minutes, so I'll try and keep it short. This one's from Steve Soames, and he contacted us via podcast@electrifying.com. He says, I currently have a Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, another PHEV this week, that I'm looking to replace later this year. I'd like to go fully electric, but I'm not 100% sure that I'm ready to make the switch. I need space for 2 dogs and all the stuff that goes with having a small child. I presume he has a small child and not just all the stuff that goes with having a small child. I have a regular 280 mile round trip that I do every 2 weeks, and I'd like to do that without having to charge up en route. I'd also like a flat load floor for occasional car camping trips to Wales and Scotland. I've looked at a SCOD Enyaq, but the stepped boot floor meant that it didn't fit the bill. Budget is 30 grand. What do you recommend, Vicky?
Well, I feel like we recommend this every week, but my mind immediately went to the Ioniq 5 actually as an option. That would be. I mean, it's big, isn't it? I know it's one of the. I think that would work in terms of the interior space, and the floor goes flat, doesn't it, in the Ioniq 5?
Yeah, I've slept in an Ioniq 5. Yeah.
So, of course you have. And you're about 7 foot tall, so that's quite impressive, isn't it? But
7'3" actually. Yeah.
So yeah. I think used Ioniq 5 would be a good shout, wouldn't it? I'm just wondering what else you could get. 30 grand.
Yeah, I guess I think then the boot isn't that big on it, is it though? That's the problem. I mean, it's flat, but it's quite shallow, I think. I only say that because I've struggled to get big stuff in, but maybe, it is huge inside, and the rear seats do slide forward, so you can make quite a bit more space in it. And it does have a frunk as well.
Obviously, my other suggestion to all EV queries is, can you stretch to an ID7 Tourer, which is the best electric car in the world, as we all know. So if you could.
Yeah.
I doubt that.
There isn't anything. They're not far off. I think they're 34, 35.
Well,
but then
that's the answer. That would be a great option. Lovely car. That really want one.
Okay, thank you. Batch.
Well, I don't know whether this will affect the boot. The stepped boot floor will also affect the VW ID4, but I did think of the ID4 initially. And then I also thought the Polestar 2, but then that's probably the boot room on that is just a little bit on the small side, isn't it? So I don't know. Tricky. It's a tricky one, that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
30 grand, big boot.
I would say with the Enyaq, I think that's they have on certain models, they have the sort of not false floor, but the sort of multi, whatever they call it, floor, flexible boot floor, I think it is. And that effectively makes it flat when you put the seats down. Because I think on the cheaper, slightly entry level ones, you didn't have that. So you did have a kind of a deeper boot. But with this kind of load floor, I'm sure I've had one in where it's just you fold everything back. They don't go flat. You still have that kind of slight incline where the cushions hit the seat squat. But I think it's definitely that. So I think maybe if you'd looked at one, Steve, it perhaps didn't have that boot floor thing in it, and that does go a little bit flatter. So if you do want to camp in it, then you probably can. But
crossed my mind actually. What about an MG S5, a new one for that money? You could get pretty much. So you could get which has got quite a big boot. So it's got I did find it just now. So a range of nearly 300 miles for the MG S5. Okay. And the boot is it's about 453 litres, and it does fold down flat. It's quite a lot of car for the money, that, the MG S5, so that could be worth considering, I reckon.
And I wouldn't get too hung up, Steve, on the 280 mile doing it in one bit. Don't bother. I mean, we all kind of, I think when we all look to buy electric cars, we always think, oh gosh, I want to do that journey without stopping. And then in reality, when you get one, you think actually it's quite nice to stop. If there's somewhere, if you're going to stop, you're doing that amount of miles, you're going to want to stop for half an hour, 20 minutes anyway, aren't you? So, and you'd only be having to add 10 or 15 miles just to get home. If you know, in winter when you're doing 250-mile range, that kind of thing.
Especially if you have a small child on board, or maybe just
I'm sure. Yeah, they're not going to be thrilled about doing 3 hours either way, are they? I would have thought so. No, okay.
But yeah, those are some good options, I reckon.
Good point. What have we got next, Vicky?
We've got I was going to say we've got a message from Marion Mountfield, who emailed us via podcast@electrifying.com. So do send in your questions if you have any to that email too. That's an option. Being new to EVs, I'm trying to get my head around charging on the go. I was told by a Tesla-owning neighbour, who I do my best to avoid, that the Tesla, because they would drive a Tesla or because they're not very nice, I don't know. That's Marion's words. We'll move on.
Yeah.
That the Tesla chargers are only for owners. But I have heard you mention, I've heard you mention that there's a trick that allows other drivers to use them. Are you allowed to elaborate, or is it a trade secret? If the latter, feel free to answer in code. Right. Well, it's no secret. It's public knowledge, but actually quite a few of the Tesla superchargers you can charge at with any EV. Tesla widely publicised it, and they've gradually been opening up more chargers. I'll be honest, I sometimes find it quite hard to figure out which ones you can charge at or not. I don't think it's very obvious. You can use Zap Maps, but I find the filters a bit tricky. I think you need to be possibly a registered member of Zap Maps to be able to do it. I can't seem to filter by the Tesla chargers that are publicly usable. Despite doing 15,000 miles a year and more, I don't often really feel the need to use Tesla superchargers. So have you guys ever used a Tesla supercharger with a non-Tesla? Do you know how to actually filter it on Zap Maps so you can figure that out?
Well, I think you can do it via the Tesla app. I think you can do it via the Tesla app because I've done it.
Oh, that would make sense, wouldn't it?
I remember the sheer horror. It was a family holiday down to Devon, and I borrowed a Toyota Pro Ace long wheelbase electric van. The horror of that, and I borrowed one of those, and I took it down to Devon, and I stopped off on the A303 at a bank of Tesla chargers. And the sheer horror of the anger I received from all these other Tesla owners when I drove in a van with windows and charged up, and it was brilliant. So I seem to remember I used the Tesla app to filter for non-Tesla charging points. So yeah, you could do it that way, I think.
Well, that's the answer then, I reckon. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Zap Maps does show it, doesn't it? But I don't think I'm just a bit ham-fisted and haven't really bothered looking into it. But yeah, I think the Tesla app sounds the better option.
Yeah, I mean, two things. Yeah, I've used them a lot. I use it because not just because they're everywhere. They're also really cheap. We're talking 44 p per kilowatt hour. So and to be honest, the Buzz doesn't charge that quick anyway. So I don't need to have a 350 kilowatt supercharger to kind of to use it. So I have used it a lot. Yeah, the second thing is you used to be able to filter the Tesla chargers on Zap Map and also on Electroverse, but since the controversy, and this may be just a coincidence, but since the kind of old the hoo-ha about Elon Musk and Tesla and everything, they were almost impossible to find. It's almost like you couldn't find them, you couldn't filter them out. It's almost as if someone had said to, because there was at one point Tesla supercharger sites were being targeted, weren't they? They were being vandalized. They were being, put signs out. There were protests at them. So I don't know. This might be the conspiracy brain of mine, but I think that certainly after that happened, they were harder to find on Electrify. They weren't obviously flagged up. So I wonder if someone had a word and said, "Look, do you mind just for a few weeks, a few months till the heat's blown, till it's all blown over." Yeah, because as you say, they used to, but they don't anymore. So, but if you use the Tesla app, that is brilliant at showing you which ones are available and the prices. And they have a lot of surge pricing, so it is cheaper at certain points during the day. But they're really easy to use. You have to register a card, Marion, with your on the Tesla app. And then when you get there, you just it's not quite as smooth and slick as a Tesla owner, where you just plug in, the car knows it's you, it's the car. You have to sort of tell them what store you're at, so 1A or 2C or whatever, and then it just starts to charge from that. But it is brilliant. But as Batch says, if your charging port is on the driver's side in the UK, so the off side, do expect some grief because you'll probably be blocking a charger for a Tesla owner. So there you go. Yeah, they should make longer cables. I don't think that's the owner's problem. So there we go.
I know.
Shall we move on? Shall we move on, Patch? Jack, have you got another one?
I have. This has come in via podcast@electrifying.com, and it's a lovely email from Tim Parsons. And Tim writes, a few weeks ago, Tom mentioned that he'd found deals for a £10,000 Dacia Spring. I thought he was joking, but then I found them too. Tim continues with his email. It's put me in a dilemma because I'm looking to buy a small EV for my daughter to get to work. I was thinking of either a Renault Zoe or a Skoda Citigo, but the Dacia has made me wonder if I should buy new instead. The car will be mainly used for commuting, 30 miles max per day, and she can charge at work. Your thoughts, please, experts. I don't know why Tim has emailed in, really, because there are no experts here, but I shall immediately throw over to Vicky. I mean, Vicky, what do you think? What do you think on this?
Well, I would actually buy used rather than buying a Spring, if I'm honest. I have nothing against the Spring. I love that it's out there and that you can get it for such great value. But I think if I put myself in your shoes, Tim, and I was buying a car for my daughter, I would probably buy, I'd probably go for a used Zoe or Citigo. I mean, the safety stuff on the Dacia is not too bad, really, by modern standards. But I think you're still getting a slightly better car with the Zoe or the Citigo. And also, I just think they're a bit more fun to drive, and they feel a bit more quite a lot more robust. So yeah, I think either of those would be a better option. That's the route I would go down. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I mean, I love the Citigo Me E-Up triplets. I thought they were brilliant.
Me too.
They were just really, I mean, they lost pots of money on each one of them because it was all built as compliance cars, weren't they? But they were really nice things. But I mean, it's a slightly slightly staying with the subject, but going off subject. Dacia Spring has hardly really set the world alight, has it, sales-wise? I mean, I saw some European sales figures last month for April. It wasn't even in the top 25. If you think that's a car that was launched last year, and everybody's saying, well, this is finally, we've got an affordable electric car that we can all, it doesn't seem to be troubling the scorers particularly. I suppose if they're selling pre-reg ones for 10 grand, then that suggests there is a slight kind of demand problem, doesn't it?
Do we know how it's doing on sort of continental Europe, so to speak? Is it doing?
Well, that's
better
what I said in the European. The whole European
that is in Europe,
figures,
is it?
Yeah, it's Europe. It wasn't even in the top 25.
That.
So there's those are markets that are far more budget sensitive than the UK is.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Spring is, like I said, I'm pleased it exists, but I do think it does struggle against used alternatives. I think as soon as you're thinking, well, I've got 200 quid a month, or 10 to 15 grand to spend on a car, you immediately start thinking, well, should I go for it? I mean, you can get so many great used cars. We've just talked about an ID3. I mean, would you have a used 2021 ID3 or a Dacia Spring? Well, I mean, I'd have the ID3. So it's tricky, isn't it? It's because we do need more affordable EVs, and the Spring is a great example of that. But hey, there you go. It does feel it definitely feels its price, doesn't it? I think that's the problem.
Yes, yeah, 995 that ID3. Remember, 995 that ID3. It puts it into perspective.
Yeah, you're not selling it, Patch.
No,
you always sound like you're doing voiceovers for a furniture ad or something.
You're going to say to me, I've got a lot of people interested in it. So if you do, you're going to need to make a decision quickly. Is that what you're going to say in a minute?
No. Just my two penneth here for Tim. I would go for the Citigo, but it's sometimes the allure of a brand new car is too overwhelming, isn't it? So I could understand if his daughter went for a Spring. My recommendation, though, wouldn't be buying it with cash. I'd be leasing it, because the leasing deals on a Spring are bonkers. So that's what I would do. But there we are. Should we move on?
We will move on. This is a technical question. I know you both love technical questions. It's from Cam, again via podcast at electrifying.com. He said, I watched your recent half hour in inverted commas podcast, and on it you discussed regen braking with the BYD in particular. Having owned a Dolphin since the start of the year, this is something that has bothered me also. My wife owns an MG4, which in my opinion is nicer to drive than a Dolphin. Regen braking is much more in line with what you'd expect from an EV. Having had some discussion with a friend who has recently upgraded from an old Tesla Model 3 to a new Tesla Model 3 with an LFP battery, he said he noticed a big difference from the regen braking also. It's effectively the same car, but just different battery type. It appears that having LFP has made a big impact on the regen. It's not necessarily the manufacturer who sets the regen aggressiveness. Have you guys any information on this, or can you explain it better at all? Vicky?
Well, I can definitely say that the LFP or NMC battery, that won't affect the regen. That is set by the manufacturer as to how the regen functions. Because obviously, you can have it stepped, you can have a single regen mode, you can have it adaptive, you can have it not adaptive. That is absolutely down to the manufacturer's development team as to how they want to set that up. It's got no relevance really to what battery type the car has. So that's definitely to do with how the manufacturer sets it up. The Model 3 is an interesting one. I wonder whether Tesla. I've not driven an old Model 3 and a new Model 3 back to back, but it's maybe that was just a choice that Tesla made with the newer model. And I think, to be fair, I think MG just has better brake regen setup than BYD compared to the Dolphin, anyway. So but I can categorically say that battery type doesn't directly impact regen.
Do you want to add anything to that, Batch? That comprehensive
No,
answer?
I just echo Vicky, really. I just echo Vicky because she is the expert round here. But it is down to the manufacturer, because look at things like the Nissan Leaf. It's got an e-pedal, isn't it? And that's due to Nissan's engineers deciding that was a good thing for that car to have. So it's not related to the battery. It's down to the setup of the car.
Okay, that sounds fair. Vicky, have you been looking at the comments we've had from last week's video? Any caught your eye?
Yes, I have. And on this subject of awful handovers, following on from last week's tale about collecting a car with no charge and no advice on how to charge it and all that stuff for the i3. So we've got a message from @JimChoff saying, my first EV experience was renting a Polestar 2 from Hertz in Italy. No instruction on charging. It's not great, is it? So anyway, he says, thank God for YouTube vids and a good mobile signal. And I've got to say, well done for hiring an electric car in Italy, because that's quite brave, because Italy's public rapid charging, it's not good, is it? It's really not good. It's taking its time. Let's put it that way.
I think that's being very polite, taking its time. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's quite sparse, the network, isn't it? So yeah, absolutely. Batch.
Right, we've been talking about the Dream Threecar Garage. We started talking about this last week on the podcast, and Gary Gotham has been in touch, and he says, presumably Ginny would have the Enyaq for the family, Enyaq Coupe for the weekend, and the L-Rock for nipping to the shops. I think Gary is having a nice little joke there with us, I think. But he has...
I think she really would choose that.
I think she would. Is her dream three-car garage. But Gary's dream three-car garage would be the Rolls-Royce Spectre, the Hyundai Insta, and a Taycan Cross Turismo, but specifically a Taycan Cross Turismo in oak green. 3 very interesting choices there, I think.
Yeah. That's a really nice garage, 3-car garage. That I like that a lot.
That's very nice. Actually, there's a Taycan in the next one. The Laser Hive 3368, a regular contributor, says, I'll have a Taycan, an Enyaq, and an Insta. So there you go. There's our 3 cars covered in the previous 2. All on hand controls for me, please. I think I can get my wheelchair in them all right. I think Laser Hive, if you put your mind to it, you can get your wheelchair into anywhere, I would have thought. I mean, it might be a challenge in the back of a Taycan if it's not a Cross Turismo. I would have thought that might be a little bit of a game, but yeah. I think that's a pretty nice garage. I think he covered every base there. He didn't specify what colour he wants his Taycan though, which is a disappointment from given Gary's level of detail.
Yeah. Grizzled HP2 has been in touch, and he says, they say their 3-car EV garage would be the Citroen Ollie, which, as we know, is a fabulous concept car. The MG Cyberster, interesting. And the Tesla Model S dual motor. So 3 very different choices there, really.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. If I'd known that concept cars were allowed, I reckon I probably could have come up with a completely different 3-car garage. But that's another podcast, eh?
We'll let him have it.
Yeah. Okay, so we've had another message on this topic from @SmartG. He says his daily would be a 2019 Hyundai Kona Premium SE. No earlier, no later. Very specific on what year of Kona he likes. And And road trip car, he'd have the BMW i4 M50. That is a smashing choice. I really like the i4, really good. And the weekend, Arbath 500e convertible. Very nice. That is good. That would be a colourful, excellent 3-car garage there. I like that.
Yeah, do you know what? That's quite a nice distinction, isn't it? Daily drive, a road trip, and weekend. I mean, VP, I mean, the Smart G, you've actually done our work for us there, because that's a very good sort of set of parameters. Otherwise, it's just 3 cars out of nowhere, isn't it? So that's so if you've got 3 cars that you have in mind for daily drive, road trip, and weekend, let us know in the comments below, because we've really enjoyed reading, finding out what really makes you tick on cars. Finally, Derek Shields 7784 says, I already have my dream garage, an Enyaq 85 edition, BYD Dolphin, and a Zoe 50. So that's he's done one more than us. He's actually bought these cars. So that's fair play to you, Derek. That's pretty good. One of the other comments we had last week, we ended up discussing Ioniq 5. I think it was probably from a reader question where we were talking about Ioniq 5. And I think I said that good luck trying to get 200 miles of range out of it in the winter. It appears that some people have agreed and disagreed with me. So Greg Kramer 5588 says, I agree. I have an Ioniq 5 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, which is a slightly bigger one than I had in mind. 220 miles in the winter would be hard to get unless you are driving slow.
We've also got another comment from @Wheelie the Capper. Good name. He says, I disagree. I have a 2023 twin motor Ioniq 5 and typically get 263 miles in winter and up to 310 miles in summer, although he does drive at 62 miles per hour on motorway and less overtaking. So I guess that probably is that's probably the key, isn't it, I'd say?
That's pretty good mileage. I don't know how he's getting that.
No.
62 is quite specific, isn't it?
Yeah, that is very specific.
Well,
very specific.
It's fast enough to overtake lorries and safely and all that stuff, isn't it? And yet it's sort of slow enough to be very efficient. So I suppose that's the thinking, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
And we've also got another person who disagrees with you, Mike. I'm sorry to say. Blobstrom has been in touch, and he says, Mike, you need to stop driving like you stole it. I have a new Ioniq 5 all-wheel drive Ultimate, and I know it is a bigger battery, but I'm getting 320 summer miles. My old 64 kilowatt hour Soul could do 240 miles in the winter. So have that, Mike. Blobstrom has cut you down.
320 miles. I mean, I didn't get within 100 miles of that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's just going downhill. I don't know. But yeah, fair play.
I think his podcast has gone downhill, hasn't it, really? But apart from that.
It started well, didn't it? And you know what? And on that bombshell, we must end it, because I think we've overrun, even with the bits we've edited out, which you'll never know what chaos it's been. But so if you have been listening, thank you very much. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you'll get a notification of when the podcast lands. And also email us at podcast@electrifying.com if you have any questions about buying electric cars, charging up, or anything to do with the world of electric. So this has been Mike, Vicky, and Batch. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.